but likens this to symbiosis of an algae with a fungi. And they work together to extract nutrients from the rocks. They're the ones who convert the inorganic chemistry into organic chemistry by creating non-covalently bound molecules. So if we're talking to the scientists, that's the language we need. Diversity is a parameter of wealth. I'm running through. Nature always provides a platform for entrepreneurs to do more with less. It's very important. Do you realize that when Earth started being a living organism, that Gaia, Earth had only bacteria. And it evolved from a few bacteria into millions of species. How did that work? Do we realize that this is the greatest... This system defies the second law of thermodynamics. It goes from simplicity to complexity all the time. Think about it. I'm not getting any answers here. Gravity is the main source of energy. Forget solar. No, I didn't say that. Solar is the second most important. But the most important is gravity. We forget that gravity is there 24 hours a day and there is no gravity eclipse. Doesn't exist. Gravity always works. Somehow we've succeeded in eliminating gravity from our equations. The reason why I can make buildings where I believe that every building we should design has to be a net contributor to the grid, not zero, net contributor to the grid, is because when you have a building, you're creating a lot of compression. That's what we calculate, compression. But when you have compression, then you generate electricity. Somehow we don't want to generate electricity from compression. That means every building that is at least 1 story high can generate its own electricity, solely harvesting compression. And yes, we can have a refrigerator. And yes, we can have a TV set. And if you have a 10-story building, then you generate a multiple because you have higher compression. And the compression gets translated into something that is called piezoelectricity. How come we teach piezoelectricity in classes and then we never use it? The capacity to use piezoelectricity starts from the little compression of our voice. That is enough to power a cell phone. Can you imagine when it's enough to power a cell phone, what it could do in a building?
You see the Dutch dance floors that are being built?
Yeah, I mean, you dance and... Yeah, but I mean, it's a pity that they do it with dance floors. I want to do it with whole buildings. And when you're on the coast and you have a little bit of earthquakes all the time, you generate much more electricity. If you have wind, it generates much more electricity. If you go 10 stories high, you generate much more electricity. And so instead of bracing the buildings, what normally architects do, you don't brace them anymore. You make them more flexible. So you generate more electricity. And flexibility doesn't mean that they fall over. It's elasticity. It's aerodynamics. So what we're realizing is that a building like this, any 2-story building, if you ever do your eco-entrepreneurship building and you get that endowed, then the only thing that I will appreciate is this is going to be contributing to the grid. Not with solar, not with wind turbines, but solely with the use of gravity. Because that's the force we have neglected.
Is it just the pressure, or does it have to be movement?
There has to be movement, but there is always movement because the Earth, remember Kepler? Kepler, the pendulum? As long as it's high enough, there's guaranteed movement. Because the Earth is turning around, so it's no other way that everything has to kind of move. And these are the energies, these are the micro sources of energy that we can harvest. That means every point of compression strength in this building has to have underneath a quartz block, or silk, or sugar. You can even do it today with wood. And that block of wood can generate electricity. Well, how do you think it works in nature? A tree, your famous trees, those high-rising trees, the sequoias, you know, they generate a lot of electricity. Their weight on those rocks and their movements in the wind generates electric currents in the soil. I mean, or did you think it was all done by nuclear power? So this is really where we see the opportunities, because it helps us to rethink how we can do it. Now we're designing the schools to do that. We're designing a school for Sweden whereby we're incorporating all those technologies, and then the kids will grow up with it. Now, in addition to have healthy buildings, I think we need to learn from the buildings. And all the basic laws of physics as applied to building design can be incorporated in a very visible way, the way that the Centre Pompidou in France was done. So you see how everything works. But how did the apple get up in the tree? Do they fly? We somehow refuse to connect the Sorry? The apple got pumped. Of course it does. But how? What's the source of the pumping? How do the nutrients get pushed up? Capillary action, that's one. There's 6 more. Osmosis, that's a side effect of the capillary action.
Gravity and movement, and that's
Yes.
Evaporation.
Evaporation, yes. Give me more.
transpiration.
Transpiration, yes. Give me more. I'm missing a very important one. The sun, well, that is the one that creates the temperature differentials. What else?
What are those little osmotic pumps in the cell wall?
Osmotic pumps, yes. But I'm missing the big one.
Desire to create more.
The desire to create more. That's a wonderful one. That I haven't heard before, but I agree. I agree with that one. What else? Hey, aren't you living close to the beach? What's happening with the ocean? Ebb and tide? Now, don't you think that, and who's responsible for the ebb and tide? Okay, so the moon is partially responsible for getting everything up in the tree. We know that. And that's the reason why I asked the question, how did the water get up in the coconut? How do those kids on the beach where you go and take your holidays know that this coconut is full of water and that one is not? How did they figure it out? It's just like I told you yesterday, every child in Bhutan learns to be a wind prospector because they want to pray. And when you want to pray, you better know where the wind is. And every child that's living on the beach wants to have the coconuts with water in it. And so they learn. And what do you need to follow to know if the coconut is full or not?
The wind.
We just said it. You follow a 28-day cycle of the moon. Or did you think the moon was only there to be beautiful? That was a response the little boy gave to me. He said, you thought the moon is only there to be beautiful? No, 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 no. It's the one that teaches me. We know that. Water is the primary solvent. If we could get our chemistry department to teach chemistry based on water as a solvent. We teach in classes how to do genetic splitting. We teach actually gene splitting. We are teaching everyone how to use sulfuric acid and how to protect your hands against sulfuric acid. Why don't we teach them how to do it with water? I mean, wouldn't that be the way to kind of have this shift to sustainability? And I think if kids would know that with water you can drink it, it's kind of nice to know that thanks to water, I showed you this yesterday, I can make this thread, this natural polymer, solely using pressure and moisture content. Now when we know, wouldn't that be class 1 in chemistry? How to use physics to do chemistry? Because if we know how to do physics, meaning pressure, then we can find some great solutions for our environmental challenges.